Hey, understanding artery blockages. Let's recognize the signs and prevent some heart attacks. This is my story of the signs I should have seen, but didn't pay attention to them. So remember, I'm not a doctor. Consult your doctor if you're having any kind of problems. Make sure you get to that doctor right away. So we come here now to kind of introduce what we're going to talk about. Let me tell my story of how I almost had a heart attack and was able to catch it just in time. So now, here are some of the things that I was going through that I didn't understand was as big a problem as what they were until it was almost too late. But I did catch it in time. So now I just got a little recovery to go. But um, being pretty active, I've always been um, pretty active in roller skating. I was a competitive roller skater for a while. So, when I go to a skating rink, I like to go faster and lap and repeat. That's kind of what speed skaters do. And, on my slow days, most people they'd struggle to keep up. And, when I'm going fast, the only ones that could keep up with me were other speed skaters. So, that's kind of where I was at. I do have sleep apnea, so I put on a CPAP machine and use that to help me breathe at night. For me, what it is, if I don't use it, I stop breathing, and then your body has to wake you up. So I sleep with a CPAP machine, and uh, about 2 years, when the COVID hit, we kind of pretty much the skating rink shut down. I'd been skating every week, and no problems or nothing, just go fast. And I'd skate from 11 to or 8 to 11, 3 hours, and I'd stop just to get some water. I wouldn't stop at all. And then COVID hit, and they shut down the skating rink. And then shortly after that, when things start to get back up, then I lost my job, so then I didn't have a lot of extra money, and I quit. I pretty much quit skating just because the money was tight. I was able to retire, so I did have some money coming in. So now then, fast forward to about 2.5 years later, I got an opportunity to go back and get a job. Well, one of the things that I had noticed when I went back is contractors, we park on the third floor of the parking garage, and the only way into the building is down 3 flights of steps when you leave up 3 flights of steps. And those 3 flights of steps, going down, I don't go fast because it's a little bit hard on my knees. I've kind of beat my knees up between martial arts and competitive roller skating. I've kind of beat them up a little bit, but hey, it was fun. So I don't always go down steps very fast, and leaving. I worked on the first floor at the time, and leaving the steps, they were pretty tough. I got kind of winded by the time I got to the top, and I just thought, out of shape. And then I started going back roller skating again, and it's amazing that I get there and it's like I had no energy. I on my fast day, was skating was slower than I'd ever go. I'd never go that slow. In fact, new skaters hanging on the walls were going about as fast as I was able to go. So something was wrong there. I just figured, wait, after sitting around for a couple years, I probably figured I was just way out of shape. Wasn't the problem, but that's what I was thinking. I'm just out of shape. So I'd push it each week. I'd push a little bit more, a little bit more, and then I get where I was doing the steps just fine. And then they remodeled and put all of us on the fourth floor. So there's elevators going up, and I take the elevators, and then after the week or so, the steps leaving, weren't a problem. Those 3 flights, and I have access to the first, the fourth, and fifth floor. So once I get on the steps, I have to get off on the fourth floor or come back down. So I get on there, and I made up the fourth floor. Get a little winded, but out of shape, going up 4 flights of steps is going to do that to you. So I started going up, 4 flights of steps, and it, get a little easier and a little easier. Um, and another thing that was happening is once in a while, not consistently, but once in a while, I'd lay down, go to sleep, put my mask on, and my heart would start pounding. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get any air. So I'd take the mask off, and after 30 seconds or whatever, and it would go down, put my mask on and go to sleep. Didn't think nothing of it. That was a sign that I didn't see coming up. So your heart pounding really hard and out of breath. That's what they call AFib. And I didn't know it at the time. And it was a short period of time. It just went away. Didn't think nothing of it. So that's happened randomly you know, maybe once a week, every week and a half, 2 weeks. It was nothing because it's not like it was every night or after I, you know, was doing something and laid down. There was no rhyme to it. I didn't really notice any consistency. It just randomly happened. So now that I'm starting to go on the fourth floor, walking up the steps, and it's getting a little bit easier, a little bit easier, and you get up there, you get winded, heart rate get up in, the 110s to 115s, right in that area, which is all right for my age and um, what I was doing. And then it got, it's like, okay, a little bit. So I started taking them two at a time, going up steps two at a time. It's like, okay, get a little stronger, a little stronger. And then it started getting where those were getting tough. So now that I'm going up the steps one at a time back again, and I was going really I think a pretty quick pace. So I wasn't taking my time going up steps. I was going up pretty quick and, not taking in, any rest or nothing, just going up the 4 flights really quick. And now then it's starting to slow down, not quite so much, um, energy in it. And then I get up on the fourth floor, get off, and my legs be kind of weak. And I go sit down on my desk, and 5 minutes, everything's back normal. I'm working just fine. I'd go down for lunch, and then I take the elevator down. So I like to take the steps down because a little bit harder on your knees. Take the elevator down, and take the steps back up to my desk, and do the same thing again. And then leaving up 3 flights, though, those are not really no problem because those 3 flights I'm used to doing 4. And so then it started getting where it's like getting more tired apart, and then I started feeling it in the chest when I go up those 4 flights. I'm starting to feel it in the chest. So it did it one day, and then the next day it did it again. And this is like on a Tuesday. So I put a call into the VA here in Omaha, and they said, well, stop in the ER and check it out. So I stopped into I drove up to the ER, put the EKG on, normal. Did the blood work because there's elevated levels of some chemical something when you're having a heart attack that they can detect in the blood. Or if it's under stress, it can detect that. Nothing, didn't detect anything. So they said, well, let's schedule a stress test for you. And, we'll get it scheduled. So Wednesday, about 1 o'clock, I call the VA and says, okay, when's the stress test? Because I wanted to go through and, get that done as quick as I could because something was wrong, didn't know what it was. And so then they said, well, we'll call you when it's scheduled. So I got home that night. I started getting that pounding again. And this time wasn't stopping as quick and it's having trouble breathing. And it wasn't more than just, a few seconds and went away. This was staying there. So my wife drove me up to the VA and they go in there and they say, well, you missed your stress test. What stress test? I called at 1 o'clock. It was scheduled for 3 o'clock, and they never told me, so I couldn't go to something I didn't know about it. So there's one missed stress test, but yeah, okay, no big deal. So they did EKG that Wednesday, um, normal, my normal EKG. The blood work come back normal. So they admitted me to the hospital, to do further checking. And one of the things that they had done on Tuesday prescribed blood thinner pill as well as a slow release nitro pill. So I was on that, which helps a little bit. So then Wednesday night, when I get back to the ER again, this is twice in a couple days, and so they admit me to the hospital. They hook me up to an EKG, and they do a bunch of tests, watch, and nothing happened. It was just there was no signs of any AFib. Everything was just running normal. They couldn't tell anything was wrong. So Saturday we say, well, as soon as we have the stress test scheduled and we can get all that done, and then as we can either stay in the hospital and get done or we can go home. So I said, well, we're just sitting here. I'm already on the two meds that they want, and I also had nitro pills that I could take if I needed to. Um, so go home Saturday. Well, Sunday night, I laid down about an hour and a half later. My heart is just pounding really hard again. When you listen to stuff, you can hear it. I can just feel it and the heartbeat. And and then I look at my watch because I got one of the Samsung smartwatches and it'll do EKGs, it'll do your all kinds of different stuff. It'll check your heart rate. And so I look at it and I'm running 30 points, 30 beats a minute faster than my normal. You know, for me that, it's I normally run 60s. I run into 40s when I sleep, 40s and 50s. So I'm running in the 80s and 90s. And this is not normal. So back in the car we go, back to the VA, and they hook me up to EKG, and they see the AFib going on. So there's a problem with the heart, and then they see little elevated levels, so the heart was under stress. So this is on a Monday, so they hooked me all up to the EKG machine and everything else, and then yeah, the point of this here is this all things kind of lining up to what's going on, and just kind of telling a little story here. And so now then Tuesday, they come in with the ultrasound. So I'm laying inside, I'm watching the ultrasound guy take all the pictures and he's measuring all the distances and all the volumes. And then they stick in a dye that, make sure the valves are closing. So the heart's functioning perfectly. There's nothing wrong with the way the heart's functioning. So that's the first step. The next step is the stress test. And this was one of the chemical ones that introduce the stress onto your heart. So this is Wednesday. So now the next day we're in the stress test. And guess what? They reproduced the problem I was having, with the AFib going on, the heart pounding, and then the shortness of breath and elevated uh, uh, heart rate. So all this is on there. So now then it says, okay, there is something going on, reproduce the problem. Until then, we hadn't reproduced the problem. So we didn't know what's going on, but all the signs were there that I kind of ignored, really tired, really shortness of breath. Stuff I normally would do, I can't do anymore because all of a sudden I'm just so tired. And one of the things was happening for about a month before that is I was just so worn out. By the time I get home, all I could do is just sit. I just had no energy to do anything. I'm not walking very good. I'm just kind of dragging my feet because I'm just so tired. And come up, we'll tell you, we'll see why here in a little bit here. So then on Wednesday afternoon, they do the heart catheter, which is they put a little probe in there and get some dye in there, and they can monitor how the blood's flowing through all your veins and everything. And I can't watch it because the camera is in front of me. So afterwards, they're showing me, and they say, well, this one artery, there's the right one, the middle one, and the left one that we're dealing with. And the middle one had built little what they call collaterals that had built over extra little veins to feed the other part of the heart. Well, the one clear on the left was completely blocked. And the surgeon said normally it takes about 6 months or so for the heart to try to repair itself because the one was completely blocked, but the one before it, which was 70% blocked, had built some arteries or some veins over to feed the part of the heart that it didn't have any flow. So that helped, that saved the heart anyway. And then the other was 60%. So out of having, should be 100%, 100% for three of them, I was 60% and 70%. So I only have like 30% blood flow of everything, but by the time you take into account, how much you should have, and I'm about 25% my blood flow that supplies the rest to your organs and everything for energy. And there was just nothing there because the blood supplies the nutrients for all your muscles and everything else to function on your brain and everything else functions on that. And if you don't have the oxygen, one of the things I was doing is I'd get tired and I'd kind of doze off every once. I'd doing something, it's like, dope, doze off. And that's because there wasn't a lot of oxygen flowing to even to the brain. So There's all kinds of things going on here. Now, one of the things that one of the doctors did say that, if all of a sudden one of those arteries plugs up real quick, then you didn't have your heart attack because it slowly was blocking up, it's able to, get that, body healing itself in there. So, back to the story here. So we're looking at the blood flow on the camera, the video after we've done it all, and I can see that the two are restricted and one's completely blocked. So now that means they could put a stent in because they could have put a stent then, but it was too far blocked. They needed to do a bypass. So now the next available ER over at the University of Nebraska Med Center, which is one of the top heart surgery centers in the country around here. The lead transplant center, doctors do heart transplants there. So these are doctors that know how to work on a heart and no questions. And when it's giving me lists, they said the med center and they list a couple of hospitals, and I quit listening to others. I'm going to the med center because I know that they have some really excellent doctors there, heart surgeons there. And so now it's scheduled for the next Tuesday. This is a Wednesday. It's not scheduled for 6 more days. So now we're looking at being in the hospital on EKG, on blood thinners, and on nitro pills, just trying to get to that point because now they've seen the problem, they know the problem, and they know the amount of blockage that's in there. So now we're kind of fighting some time maybe. And it just so happened that the doctor who was supposed to do my surgery the next Tuesday had a schedule change. He was doing a heart transplant that Wednesday night. He had an operation scheduled for Thursday morning, the next morning, over there at the med center. Well, because he was doing that heart transplant that night, he couldn't do the surgery in the morning. That freed up the operating room for a different doctor to come in. So I was able to get my bypass done on that Thursday, which was April 11th of 2024. Just in case you listen, there's a different year. So that was the 11th. So then we're going in there, and now I know the signs of artery blockage is one of the things that you're going to look at is you're doing an activity and you're going along, and all of a sudden it's starting you're getting more tired. You're not able to do it because you just get tired. You have to stop, take more breaks. And now, if you don't sleep very well one night, the next morning you're going to be a little more tired. But this is just consistently, it's happening more and more where every day you get tired and you're just more tired and tired and tired, and are you just constantly dragging. That's a good sign that your arteries are starting to block up. And looking for the signs of a heart attack, you're too late because you've already done damage to the heart if you've had your heart attack. So you want to find the signs that it's being blocked. Like I found a kind of cool picture of a heart here. Where you have this one it's like, I don't know if these ones match up to it, but the one over here in this part of the heart, as you're looking straight at it, this was 60, 70, and then 100% blocked, going through the heart. If you're looking, at me this being my right side, and then this being the left side, or vice versa. I don't know. It's not an actual real heart. It's just kind of representative of one. I thought it's kind of a cool picture. But so take a look at that. And now the other thing that should have made me think a little bit more of that is several years ago, my dad was someplace where it was at, and he's going up a bunch of steps to at one of those places that you go see stuff. And he's going up a bunch of steps and got really winded. Well, he went into the doctor and they scheduled him immediately for a bypass. It's supposed to be a triple bypass, they thought, but ended up being 4. And then my brother had triple bypass a year ago. So that should have put something in my mind, but it didn't, that maybe that's something that's going on. So one of the first things is I told my other 2 brothers, hey, this is something you're going to have to watch for. And I told my 2 boys, like, this is something you're going to have to watch for, in maybe 40 years or something. So take a look at this, because now we have, me, my brother, and my dad, we all had bypasses for the same basic thing. So That's something that we want to look at. As if you don't have history, you'd still be concerned. Because if all of a sudden you're starting to drag and you got to see a reason. If your blood flow is not flowing, if you're getting restriction, now then you're going to be weaker because your body's going to start shutting down things that don't need. Well, to survive, you don't have to be able to walk. If you sit, you can survive a lot longer than if you're walking it if you don't have the blood flow. So you need to keep, the brain and the main organs all working. And, that's one of the things you want to look at. So now then the recovery, after you go for the surgery, us going down, they're taking me down Thursday morning, 7:30 is when they're scheduled down there and they're shaving everything. And now I know what AFib feels like. Your heart's beating really hard and you start getting winded. Um, and so I can feel that. So I know what it feels like now after ignoring it for several months. Now I know what it felt like to have that. And now I'm having one of those episodes while they're shaving you to get ready for the surgery because they shave pretty much if you have hair on it, they shave it, from your chest, and because they're going to take veins from the leg, so they didn't know which one, so they had to do both legs and everything. So they kind of take one vein from inside the chest, and the other two are done from the leg. So there's some veins that you really don't. Doctor said you really don't need, so they just take them. The varicose veins, they take those out, and that's kind of when they took out. Um, so now then what happened to me anyway is I didn't have any signs. When I went to the doctor, nothing showed up as a problem. Next night, nothing showed up as a problem. Then I'm back in. So this is like a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and the next Monday. So I've been in 3 times in a week. So they says, okay, we're going to admit you. We're not going to let you go home this time. And I says, good. I don't want to go home. And the doctor said, if I went back home again, the next one could have been a heart attack. And so I says, okay, I'd rather be in the hospital. I'd rather be at home, but I mean, I'd like to be at home, but I'd rather be in the hospital because then they're monitoring her. They got the monitor on all the time, and something goes on, they're right there. They know they're there to take care of you. So once I got scheduled, then I was over at the med center, in their care, and one of the things they do is like they get you up moving before you're awake. um, I guess I was in the ICU, they said about 1 o'clock, and about 4:30, they're starting to wake me up. My eyes are almost open, able to open and stay open. And it's okay, you got to stand up. Like, what? Like, I don't have my eyes open yet. So actually, the beds over there, they'll actually do everything to stand you basically up. They're kind of cool that you can stand you up. So they're holding on to this belt around my waist. I got this pillow, they call it a heart pillow. That's kind of shaped like heart. If I have to cough or anything, I got to put that over my chest. So they put that on me and stand me up. And they say, open your eyes. It's like, no, I'm too tired to open them up. So they got me standing up. You know, this is like 4:30 that afternoon, not even 12 hours after I went into the operating room. They got you standing up, and then uh, they're checking, your blood sugars and everything constantly all throughout the night. And by about 7:30 the next morning, I'm going for my first walk. Not very far, but I'm going for my first walk. And this is um, you know, 24 hours after they had started shaving me for the operation. And so we're doing a walk, and then about 2 o'clock that afternoon, they're moving me into a room. So I was about 20, 25, 26 hours is all I was in ICU. So I got out of there in one day, and then, the first day, they're still giving you stuff. And then all of a sudden the pain comes back because all the meds they give you, anesthesia, are starting to wear off. So then then you go through another pain, and then you go through other stuff. And then the third day, I'm starting to be able to get up on my own and go for walks on my own. And I went one walk with my wife. We walked down in the hallway and back. And the last day, um, I'm not don't need the nurses or anything to help me get up. I can get up. And one of the things I do is to start with, you're on 10-pound restriction, so you can't lift, push, or pull uh, more than 10 pounds. which means, a lot of times, a lot of times when you get up, you just put your arms down, you kind of help push your arms. You can't do that. Because right now, until it's healed up, if I sneezed, it could send me back to the operating room. So I always got to keep a pillow with me. I got it. Well, you can't really see it too well. I got a pillowcase. I just stuck it in my belt, so I always have it with me. Um, but you got to protect that because it's kind of weird. They actually use stainless steel wire and they sew the cartilage back together until it heals, and then they just basically super glued the skin back together. Is all they did, and now then you're on for about 4 to 6 weeks. I forget it was. Um, yeah, about 6 weeks, no more than 10-pound weight limit. And then from there till 12 weeks, you're on 25-pound limit. Then this is after that, then all the restrictions are off. So the July 3rd is when I'm off all my restrictions. So um, kind of a double Independence Day, I guess. July 4th, I can actually start doing whatever I can physically do. Um, so then when you come home, it's like, man, you're just so tired. I can't raise my arms more than when my elbows 90 degrees. So I can get my elbows up 90 degrees so I can wash my hair. But the first 2 days I couldn't even do that. And so we're in here and my wife's trying to help me wash and then the third day I can finally stand up. And then the fourth day I can finally do it myself. And then I'm getting where, finally now I can do it all myself and then get dressed and everything's, start with you can't even do it. Remember if you're putting on socks, you can't pull because you can't move more than 10 pounds. Because if you split that open, now they got to go in and restitch it. And now your 12 weeks start over. And so don't want to do that. So you got to really be careful on that. But we're getting better. Going for walks. They want you to do lots of walking. Um, they say after 5 weeks, they want you walking from 40 to 60 minutes once a day. So that's a lot of walking. I don't know how far I'll be going, but I do get it. First off, here I just walk down to, just down to the next house, the driveway and back. And then if I got down to the end of the corner and back a few times, and then I went around it's a little short block. It's about maybe quarter mile at most. Just down. There's only three houses, on the one side, so really short blocks here, just around, and then I go up to the next street up and down, and this week I started going up to the top of the hill, and that gets really tough because it's a little bit of an incline. So I do the incline first, and then walk on a flat, and then I get come down. So getting up to the top one's getting a little bit tough, but that's a little bit longer, but now I start physical therapy sometime here this week. Once the cardiac rehab center gets all the stuff from the VA, then we'll get started on that. And I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm sure they're going to push you. So anyway, that's kind of what I want to do. I've been kind of out of posting it into my groups or my YouTube channel or any of my profiles. Basically been kind of pretty much off of social media and the computer. This is actually today, this is the longest I've spent on the computer any one time because I just couldn't sit here long enough to do it. And getting in and out of the chair was really tough because as they're too low, then you can't get out of them very easy. And then, what they do when you help you getting out is they go on three. So they start rocking you on one, rocking on two, and then on three, they pull you up and now, it started with that's kind of what I had to do to get out to just kind of get that rocking going. And now if I can get my feet under me, I can pretty much stand up now. But you know, that's something that I was able to be lucky enough and get in when I did, because the heart just showed a little elevated level, a little stress that third time going to the ER. Um, but it could have very well been even worse than that, considering we're 45 minutes away from the VA. So, it could have been something worse. The next time it could have been a heart attack and may not even made it. So, um, that's something that what I went through. If you see any of those signs, make sure you get with your doctor and say, hey, this is not normal for me. this is something that's not normal, that I get so tired so quick. Or if you start really getting, there was something wrong, and I just didn't really realize it until I started having the pains in the chest. But all the signs you say you're having a heart attack, I had none of those. None of those showed up because I hadn't been having a heart attack. So, it's very important to recognize the signs of a heart attack. But I think it's important is as important or even more important to notice the signs that you're having some arteries are starting to get blocked. So now you're restricting the flow of your blood through your body. And the heart's that big pump that pumps all that nutrients to all the system through it. So if that pump is not getting stuff through, then blood pressure is going to go up. Just like any liquid or any hydraulic fluid, you have a certain amount of flow going through there. If you restrict the nozzle, it increases the pressure. To demonstrate this, take your garden hose, and I'll take, we used to do this all the time before, we didn't always have those little spray nozzles, but that basically is what it does. Start putting your thumb over the end of the hose, and as you block more and more of it, that pressure gets more and more. That water squirts out with more pressure and further. So, it can just dribble out. You can shoot it quite a ways. Well, as your arteries are plugging, that's what it's doing. Your pressures are building up. And, I was on 3 different blood pressure medicines, and, it was still on a little bit of high side even. And now they stopped all those. I'm on, I think on one now, but now everything's all good, and I'm running, good blood pressures now, just on the one. And that's another sign that you might want to look at too, and talk to your doctor about it. Um, these are all things that has happened to me, or has been, or is happening to me, that I want to make sure that you can get in there and uh, not have anything like that happening to you. So let's get in here and take a look at that stuff. There's nothing to say what age this can happen at. I got a friend of mine, he had his heart attack at 47. He's in his 80s now, but he works out all the time. And he was working out a lot before that. So it doesn't mean that you got to be old. Now I had this when I just turned 69 this year in March. So uh it's shortly after I turned 69 it happened to me. But it had been building up prior to that. I hadn't really noticed it too much until the last 6 months is when I noticed anything. Before it was still enough blood flow that it seemed like it, but just slowly plugging up. And maybe 6 months ago, if I looked at that, why am I dragging? Why am I so slow? And if I'd have went to the VA then and say, hey, there's something's going on. I just don't have. I can't do anything I used to, and let's check it out. And maybe it wouldn't have been completely plugged. The third one, maybe it's still been open, um, but it still need to bypass anyway, because they weren't going to put a stent in there. It wasn't like it was just slightly plugged. It was, they were all pretty well plugged. So um, yeah, I just you know just hey, leave a comment in there. If you're seeing any of these symptoms, or if you had anything similar, let's start, get our conversation where we have different people telling their stories of what they had going on, and the signs that they had, and maybe we can save somebody from having a heart attack when we catch the signs prior to the heart attack. Now, you always want to pay attention, the normal signs of a heart attack. Your chest is tight, your arms, problems with your arms, your cheeks are, one side's going numb or something, all those other signs, you always want to pay attention to those. And don't ignore those, but we want to catch it before then if we can. So let's start, talking about this and seeing, maybe we can help somebody that has had some of these problems and doesn't really realize it. And you know what? Go to your doctor, and if you need to, schedule a stress test. Now they can do the treadmill type stress tests, where they hook you up to the machine and have you run on the treadmill and stuff. But the chemical ones, um, those can be a little painful, because it's not like something they can just stop immediately. If you're on a treadmill, you can stop and it's not quite so bad. But you know what? Running on a treadmill just really wasn't an option anyway. It's a lot more controlled with the chemical versions of it, and they can see exactly what's going on. They can monitor it, and you're laying there. They can take your blood pressures. They can do all this stuff, all fairly easy, while you're there. And like anything else, the first two times I went to the ER, they didn't find anything. So if you can't find a problem, you can't solve the problem because you don't know what it is. So because they didn't find anything, originally it scheduled a stress test, which would have found it, which it eventually did find that there was a problem. Um, so once is able to reproduce it, being an engineer, if I can't reproduce the problem, I can't solve it. So you want to reproduce the problem and then reproduce the problem, even though it wasn't fun. Um, I liked it because now then they seen exactly what I had gone through, and now they've seen it. Now that we can figure out what the problem was. And for me, this time it was just arteries being plugged, as opposed to anything else. So fortunately, the heart tried to repair itself. Otherwise, if it hadn't tried to do that, then the part that didn't have any blood flow, if you don't have any blood flow to part of your body, it's going to start dying. So fortunately for me, we caught it just in time. No damage to the heart. It's all there. It's just when I go on my walks, I kind of pushed it a little bit further this time. So this week I'm going to try and walk just a little bit further. And um, it's kind of tough because leaving the house, I go down a little slight little hill and then over, and then I have a fairly steep hill to climb, to get up to the top. I might next time I go out, I might take my rangefinder and see how far it is and see what kind of incline it is. So yeah, it's a little bit of a walk up there. I'm getting, kind of tired by the time I get to the top, but then I have flat to walk on and then downhill. So, I push it that little bit there and make it the top and then work my way around. And by the end of the week, taking 2 and 3 walks a day, by the end of the week, that'll be pretty good there. And then I'll be starting the cardiac rehab, which is, I guess they put you on a treadmill. I don't know. Well, I can keep you informed if you're interested on what that entails. I can do that. But um, all I can say is if you think you're having trouble breathing, you're running out of energy more than what you think you should. Um, me being, you know, 68 at the time, uh, I just thought, after sitting around not doing much for a couple of years, I thought I was just way out of shape. And it didn't dawn on me that no, there's a problem why I can't do that. And because I'd never had problem, even if I, was tired, I could still cruise around. Even tired, I'd go around just as fast, and not faster than most people skated anyway. Just because for me, just a couple little pushes and I'm moving around. You can take the wheels of my skates and spin them. They just keep spinning and spinning and spinning. So there's no resistance in the wheels really. So um, there should be no reason why I was going that slow, other than my thinking was I'm just way out of shape. Uh, but at that time I didn't have the point where I was just getting really exhausted because everything seemed like a normal other than the fact that I couldn't go fast like I wanted to, and it's driving me crazy. I figured, okay, I could keep pushing, 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 but it was something else that was keeping me from doing it. So that's my story. That's why I've been kind of incognito for a while. Right now, it has been 18 days since my surgery, and each day it gets a little better, but then I have the down days and then up days, and it kind of goes down and up and down and up, and as long as it's keep gradually going up, which it is, so it's getting a little more energy, and um, I did have one of my podcasts scheduled for 2 days after I get home, and I got it recorded, but I hadn't done anything with it. So it's one of those I just didn't have the energy to do more than that. That took everything I could do to just get that recorded. So that'll be coming out. So you can always catch me on my podcast, the Arch Talk 101 podcast. It's on Spotify as well as Audible, and you can catch it in the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group. So I post them in there. You can also, catch me in the other places. So wherever you find this video, get a hold of me. I'd like to hear your story. If you've had any kind of anything like this happen, let me know your story because I think it's quite interesting. How we can get together and let's use social media to help people instead of the normal way it is. Let's not entertain as much as we can provide some help. And if we can save one person from having the actual heart attack, and get a bypass instead, they're not fun. But you know what? Uh, as how I was feeling before I had this is still way worse than even my worst day after I had the surgery, because now I know what was wrong, and it was only going to get worse and worse and worse. And it could be that, if I hadn't done it when I did, the next one could have killed me. So um, it's getting better. It's not quite so bad. The scars, you're always going to have a scar that to open you up. There's still some parts that are a little bit numb, and but that all heals up. And right now they have a heart monitor on me that I'll go for a couple more days. Going to on to monitor 2 weeks to see what it's doing for the first 2 weeks. And the surgeon did say that um, it's 3 months. The 12 weeks, 3 months before you're completely healed. And he said there may be some signs. There's some times in there where your heart will go into AFib, and I was able to catch a couple times. The Samsung smartwatch has an EKG in it. And when I was having before I went to the hospital, I was actually recorded it, and it said it was in AFib. And then I had it recorded a couple of times, and it was there. But most of it says it's in normal sinus rhythm. It might be beating hard. It's just beating hard. And the doctor said, that can go on easily for 3 months. And he did say that if there's any complications from the surgery, that have already happened. So I'm past any where the normal complications you might see from a surgery, because this is a major surgery. They split your chest open and open it up and fix your heart. Well, actually, this can fix the arteries for me, but um, so 3 months. So I just got to be careful. I don't want to, you're feeling better and you get moving around, and I just still got to be careful of how much I move my arms, because you can they'll kind of move a little bit and a little popping. So you have to be really careful. When you do have that, it does get better. I was talking to my brother that had it, and he says, yeah, he's just fine now, but it just takes a while. You just got to go through that and go from there and do what the doctors say. They say no more than 10 pounds, no more than 10 pounds. In fact, I don't think I've lifted more than maybe 8 pounds. A gallon of water is about 8 pounds, over 8 pounds. So just don't lift anything that you can't, and you'll be good. And in fact, right now, doors is something you have to think about when you're going. So I can't drive yet because they want not till the 8th of next month. Um, I can't drive until then because I can't be in the front seat where there's any airbags. So I can't drive or be in the front seat if there's an airbag, because if the airbag goes off, it'll split that chest open again, and then you'll be back in surgery. So fortunately, on one car, we don't have airbags on the passenger side, just on the driver's side. It's the only place there is in the steering wheel. So I can ride in the front seat on that car. The other one that don't have an airbag, I can't get into because it's a big truck and I can't climb in them. So because you can't pull yourself up, you got to just stand up. So getting in and out of that would be really tough. So that's that's the thing. You just got to be careful of it. Think about, that's something I have to think about right now is how do I get in if I'm going somewhere? How do I get in if I have to pull the door open and it doesn't open very easily? Because a lot of these doors take quite a bit of force to open them up, and I can't open them up. So that's what I have to think about, I get to work is, okay, how many manual doors will I have to go through to get to my desk? Because if there's any of them that I can't open, then I can't start working until I can open them up. So that's something I have to look at. And, you know, when I start getting closer, I'll go, I may stop up there and just to see, not really to go into work, but just stop up there and talk to them, just make sure I can get in where I need to get into. Um, Most of them have automatic doors on them, but I don't know. There's a couple doors I'm not sure on. So that's something you have to think about too. When you're going somewhere, if you can't open the door or even the car doors, some of these car doors are, can be quite heavy to pull open, especially if you're parked a little slightly hill and you have to push the door open. Now, if you're inside, you can push open latch lever and then push with your shoulder and then turn around and push with your feet. But if it's one of those that you're on the downhill, um, how do you get back in the car if you have to pull the door up a hill? So that's something that you got to think about for a while because it's the May 22nd is when I can go to 25 pounds, which is a little bit better, but still some of these doors, some of them, have you ever tried to go in or out a door and you just had to really pull really hard? Well, I'm not going through them without somebody helping me. So that's something you have to think about. And, that's just all part of, after 3 months, then there's no restrictions. And then I can get out doing stuff. I can go back to skating. Because that's the first thing I asked the doctor. It's like, oh, when can I start skating? It's 12 weeks. So I asked him again when I was at the senior the last time. So, well, yeah, skate 12 weeks. Okay. But, it after that, I'll be able to go faster and left repeat again and actually go fast. So probably not too fast to start with, just gonna see how it goes. But that's uh that's kind of my story and why I've been kind of gone from stuff and it's just one of those things that we got to take care of it. And um, thanks for listening. And those of you that have anything going on, make sure you let me know because I'd like to talk to other people that have had this same thing, and let's get a conversation going about what's going on with this. And it's I think we're finding more and more times when somebody might be having this problem and don't realize it. And the next thing you know, you're going to the funeral because, we ignored those warning signs, like I did for quite a while. I ignored all those warning signs that something was going on. We knew something was going on when I was just so worn out, I didn't have energy to do anything. Like on a weekend when I normally am doing stuff, I'd get out of bed and I'd sit in the chair and it's like that's all the energy I had. That was it. And kind of gets boring that way because I'm not used to doing all that. And, I gotta be careful now because I'm able to move a little bit more, but I gotta remember, I gotta keep my hands in my pockets. I can't do anything with them, other than just, real light stuff. So that's just one of those things that part of the recovery, just like anything else, if you're an athlete training for an event, you're going to go through and do what the coach tells you to do, and you're going to do you know whatever exercises, whatever they want you to do to prepare for that event. And for me, this is like, okay, I have an event in 3 months that I'm training for. Um, Starting July 4th is when the new event starts. I'll be back skating and doing everything else. And, right now I'm in training for that March 4th event, which is, no restrictions. So I'm training for that. So when I'm ready for it, then I will be able to do what I need to do at that point. And, just look at it that way. You're in training, and let's just keep the training going. And you have your coach or your doctor or your physical therapist. That's your coach. All of our athletes have coaches. If you don't have a coach, um, pretty much you have an idiot for student if you don't have a coach. If you're trying to coach yourself, it's tough. I've been an archer coach since '95, and it's tough to coach myself. I look at it as like, um, why am I, I've seen some videos. It's like, why am I doing that? That's not what I tell people to do. That's not what I do. It can be tough because you tend to look at it and say, "Oh, I'm doing it right." But then when you record it, "Oh, I'm not doing it right." So you can coach yourself, but it's much easier if you have somebody else looking at it. Even if you're coaching yourself on something, um, it's nice to have another set of eyes to look at it because they might see something you're not seeing because you're seeing the same thing over and over and over, like anything else you're doing. If you're looking at something over and over and over and over, you're going to miss something. Somebody with new, fresh eyes on it. It's like, oh, what are you doing there? And it, just one of those little quick things that somebody can spot. So, let's go through this training and let's get better and let's just make sure we try and keep up on what's going on with our bodies and the different things that can happen. Let's make sure that we have uh, a good foundation for keeping track of everything and let's just like I said earlier, let's just start a conversation. Let me know. I'd like to hear what your stories are. If you've had the same thing, or if you're having a problem, um, and it's similar to what I'm doing or something different, hey, let's talk about it and see, maybe something else is going on that we don't know about. Maybe there's something else going on that we can find as a group, and then when we find out what the problem is, then maybe we can help somebody else to not have that heart attack, to have that bypass surgery instead. Or maybe we catch it in time. We don't need a bypass surgery. You can go in there and maybe just changing what you're doing. Maybe if it's just slightly blocked, maybe then between the doctor, nutritionist, and whoever else gets involved in that, maybe it's change of diet, or maybe it's something else. Maybe we need to increase our exercise. So maybe we can prevent somebody from having a heart attack, or even prevent them from having a bypass surgery. If we can catch some of the signs early enough, maybe we can do that. So once again, if you've been listening this far, thanks a lot for listening. And remember, I'm not a doctor. I just talk to them. So I have had a little medical training, but just more just first aid stuff. But you just pay attention to what's going on, and let's see if we can help somebody out and prevent a heart attack or a bypass by looking for the signs that you might be having your arteries starting to get blocked.